Hi folks, how are you all doing today? So today we will be learning about the selectors of CSS, right? So we have seen types of selectors in the last session also, right? But we have not discussed them in detail, right? In specific, correct? So that's why I would just like to emphasize more on that, right? So that you can actually understand what are selectors and how exactly we will be using the selectors thing, right, in CSS. Okay, so let's quickly start with creating a web lab project. Okay, so I'm just clicking on web lab to start off now. So I'll just create a very basic structure of the HTML first, okay? And then we'll see how to style them, right? I'll be telling you about four types of selectors today, okay? Element selectors, then we will be discussing about class selectors, ID selectors, along with the group selectors, okay? So these four are the types of selectors which can be written in CSS. Okay, let's understand each of them properly, right? And then you will understand what exactly this is. Okay, so what just happened to this? Okay, got it. Right. There was a very small delay. Yeah. Now, okay. First, let's just create few elements. Okay. First, I'm just creating H1 element, right? I will be writing this as a sample. Then I'm creating a p tag. We know h1 element is a heading element, right? P tag, so I'll just write this is a paragraph, right? Or we'll just write the same here. This is a heading, okay? And for p tag, I'll be writing id, right? So let's give id as para1, okay? So I'm just copying this thing. I'll paste it next in the next line and just I'll say para2. This is a second paragraph, okay? Now instead of id, I'll be writing class, okay? Class equals to para2, right? I already have it. So let's paste this and I'll just say class, and instead of 1 we have to write 2. This is a third paragraph, okay? Now what did I just do is I've created a h1 element, right? H1 element is nothing but a heading tag, correct? So we're just creating a heading. Then three p tags, right? One with the id para1, okay? This is a paragraph, right? Or you can just say this is a first paragraph. And then another p tag saying the class is para2, and then this is a second paragraph. Another p tag with the same class but the different content, right? So here we have to discuss about this thing, right? So this is a very important thing, so please do concentrate over here, right? So ids and classes, okay, both are completely different, right? id is something which is unique identifier, right, which uniquely identifies that particular element, okay? Now, if I say para1 for this paragraph tag as the ID, then you can't really give the same para1 as the ID for any other element. Okay. Not only para element, I mean the p tag, right? For any other element, like any other tag in HTML, you can't really give the same ID. Okay. No two IDs in the HTML page can be same. Okay. This is a very important thing, right? But so any element in your HTML can actually have the same class name, right? Any two elements in HTML can definitely have the same class name, right? Need not be only p tag, right? So let's suppose I want to create, I'll just say h2 element now, right? So I'll just close h2. Let's write the content as this is a second heading. Okay. And then let's give the class as para2. Okay, this is absolutely accepted, right? Not only for p tags you can give the same class, but for any other element you can absolutely give the same class name. This is completely a valid statement, right? So now I hope you understood the difference between id and a class, correct? IDs are completely unique, and they are used for unique identification of any element. Okay, and no two elements can have the same id, right? And the next thing is class. Okay, any two elements can have the same class, right? So it doesn't really depend on the element which you're creating in, right? It just is like the grouping of elements, or for the same styling, if you want, for all the elements you can absolutely give the same class name, right? So if I just apply a style for para 2, right? For all these three elements that will be applied. Okay, we'll check this now, right? So yes, let's let's write another element also, and then we'll check for this. Okay, I'm just creating input element, and then let's write the type as text. Okay, then yeah, I think I'll just write this. So let's write another input element also. Okay, I'll be just needing them, so that's why I'm just writing. Uh, for this, I will write type as password. Okay, yeah. So you can see this is type password. Okay, now let's click on CSS and then start styling it. Okay, or else I'll just start styling in the head tag itself so that you can see the class name and understand the difference here, right? So I'm just writing style, and then I'll just close style tag here, right? Yeah, yeah. So within this, we can actually, within the style tags, we can write the same CSS thing, right? So I hope you have already watched my previous videos, right? There we already have discussed about the types of CSS, okay? In that, we have three types of CSS, right? Inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS. This is internal CSS, okay? So this is external CSS. Inline means within the same line if you write it, all right? Yeah, but that's not our concept for today. You can actually go back to my channel, Folx Hub and Open Web Development series, and start watching them in a sequence to understand that. Okay. Now, coming back to selectors, right? What exactly I mean if I say selector, right? So, I'll just write the syntax for you. Okay. So, let's just take some other color like blue. Yeah. Now, so the CSS syntax is very simple, right? For this, like let's go to CSS file, and like I'll write it here because I have more space here to write. So that's why. Okay. And we can also take these examples here, right? So let's check. First, you have body, right? This is the selector, okay? And then inside this, you have background and then white, right? So background is property or attribute, okay? And white is value, okay? So in any CSS file, you will be finding the same syntax, right? First, you will write selector. Okay, so you'll just write selector and then open curly brackets. Okay, so within the curly braces itself, whatever you want, you will be writing, right? So first you will write the attribute. So attribute, or you can say property, then a colon symbol will be given, right? Then you will write the value for that particular attribute. Okay, and then you will place a semicolon. This is the syntax. This is the absolute syntax for CSS, right? No other thing can be done. Okay. If you want to write another attribute, let's suppose this is attribute 1, you will just write it just below that attribute 2, then a colon symbol, and then you will write value and then a semicolon. Okay, that's it. Okay, this is selector, this is attribute, this is value. Colon and semicolons are very important, and curly brackets also. Okay, this is for this selector. If this is selector 1, let's suppose, right, you can also do it for selector 2 now, right? S2, selector 2, then open curly brackets and start writing the attributes and values and semicolons also. Okay, this is how it is. So likewise, we wrote for body, we wrote for P, we wrote for H1 also. Okay, let's just now you can already see there is some default style which is already written, right? We're not caring about this thing, right? So let's just go back to index. Let's start off with whatever we want to style, right? So when you're styling a tag, okay, so careful, you just have to carefully understand this, right? So when I'm styling for a tag, so body is a tag, P is a tag, H1 is a tag, H2 is a tag, input is a tag, right? So this is actually called as HTML element, right? So when you're styling any HTML element, that means tags, then we say that as element selector. Okay, your body is element selector. Okay, if I write P, then it is element selector. Okay, if I write H1, that is also an element selector only. Okay, so when you're using tags, that those are element selectors, right? So inside this body, I just want to say background hyphen color, and let's suppose I'm using aquamarine. Okay, that's it. You can see it is getting applied, right? So this is the element selector which I am using. Okay, now I hope you understood the element selectors, right? What if I'll just say comma, and I'll write input over here. Okay, see, for input boxes also you're getting the same background color, which is aquamarine, right? That means for both body and input, if you want to apply the same style, then absolutely you can write group selectors like this. So now this is actually called as a group selector, right? Because we are grouping both the elements over here, right? Group element selectors. Okay, so this is absolutely possible and valid also. Okay, you can do this. Let's suppose I want to write a font family. Okay, so let's write font family and let's choose cursive. You can see everything is getting applied over here, right? And here also, if I just write something, you can see this is also cursive only, right? So this is what happens. Okay, font family cursive done. Let's suppose I'll just write font size. Okay, font size 20 pixels. You can see everything is changing into 20 pixels. Box's size is also increasing because of 20 pixels. Let's write now, see, it is 20 pixels in size. Okay, this is what happens when you are using group selector. For the complete body and for input tags also, right, it is getting applied. Okay, so now let's say, now you understood about the element selector, right? So it is element selector. Okay, we understood element selectors and group selectors now, right? So there are two more types of selectors, if I have to tell you, right? So one is class selector, okay, and the other one is ID selector. Okay, class selector and ID selector, right? So what is a class selector and what is a ID selector is, by the name itself you might have understood. Now we have classes here. If you want to style this, that becomes a class selector, and we have ID here. If you want to style this, that becomes ID selector, right? But there is a different syntax while you're using them. Okay, what is that different syntax for class selector? Let's suppose, right, here the class name is para2, right? For class selectors, you definitely have to use a dot before them. Okay, now write the class name, this becomes a class selector, and you can absolutely start off giving your own style now, right? So for now, I'll just say font family, a different font family, let's choose. So I'm choosing fantasy. You can see Only for the classes para 2, for second paragraph, third paragraph, and second heading, you're getting the style applied, right? For others, you can see no change, right? That's because of para 2 is a class for p tag and h2 element only. So that's why. That's the reason. Okay. So, like you can see, we can group any element into one using class, right? So, if you want to apply same style for multiple elements, let's suppose, you can absolutely use classes. Okay. Now I'm saying dot para 2 and then font family, right? So let's suppose, let's just say font hyphen weight. So font weight 100. Okay. So now you will see that it is just getting the font weight 100. Okay. Or like if I just say 900, you can see now it is 900. It is more bolder now, right? So that's what happens with font weight. And you can also say font style, right? So font style, let's take italic. You can see now they all three became italic. Okay, this is how it is now. Now you understood about the class selector also, right? So we have id selector. So id is para 1 here, right? So whenever you're using id selector, you have to put a hashtag and then write the id, then open the bracket and start writing whatever you want, right? So for para 1, let's say what shall we create? Okay, I'll just give letter spacing. Okay, so letter spacing, I'll say 2 pixels. You can see between each letter you are having 2 pixel gap now. Okay, so if I just write 10 pixels, you can see 10 pixel gap is there between each letter. Okay, this is letter spacing. You also have something called as word spacing. Word spacing, let's suppose I'll give 20 pixels. You can see 20 pixel gap is given for every word. Okay, here the place is not sufficient, so it went on next line. If I do this, now the space is sufficient and it is on the same line. Okay, this is what happens, right? With the word spacing, letter spacing, and word spacing. Okay, and you can only see that this is getting applied on this particular line only, right? Because id is given to only one single element. Okay, so this is what happens, right? Now on the group selector, if I just say p and then comma, sorry, after input I'll just put a comma and write p. Whatever is this style, right, it will get applied to all the p tags, right? So this will be applied. Font family will not be applied for this para 1. Okay, wait, in para 1 we did not write font family, no? So wait, I'll just write font family and then I'll tell you. So font family, let's say monospace. So on this you can see it now. For the body, for the p tag, we are giving font family as cursive, right? But for this particular id element, I actually gave font family as monospace. So it is only considering monospace as the value, but it is not considering cursive as the value. Okay, that means for id selectors you have more priority than the group selector elements. Okay, so because the group selectors are like the common things, if any other thing is not applied, only then this will be applied. Okay, so see on para 2 also, for the class selectors also, right? So we gave font family as fantasy. So only fantasy is being applied, but not cursive. Okay, cursive is only given to the other body element over here. This is the other body element, so for that only it is getting applied. Okay, so this is what happens. First, you'll get the priority on the ID selectors, then only group selector. Okay, the same goes with this class also. First, the style priority will be given to class selector, then only it goes to the element selector. Okay, I hope you understood this so far, and this is all about selectors, right? We understood 4 selectors today: ID selector, which has hashtag behind it while styling, right? And we also understood about the class selector, which has a dot behind it. And group selectors are like grouping the tags, right? Element selectors are like just if you write one element and start styling that, that will be the element selector. Okay, and you also understood these two things which are new, right? Letter spacing and word spacing. Okay, you also understood the css syntax today, which is like how to write anything in CSS, right? First, you will write the selector, then open curly brackets. Okay. Within curly brackets, you'll write the attribute value, colon and semicolon also are there. So attribute colon value semicolon, attribute colon value semicolon. This should be the syntax. Okay. How many ever attributes you write, it will accept and it will take. Okay. Write 100 attributes also, it accepts and takes, right? But it should be in the syntax. You should separate every property and value with semicolon. Okay. So this is all about our today's session. I hope you had fun in this session and you also learned something new and you enjoyed this, right? So we learned about these four types of selectors in CSS, and which is very important also, right? The bifurcation you have to definitely understand, right? Without understanding the difference and all, how can you absolutely use it? Yeah. So that's why we discussed about this in today's session. And yeah, this was all about our today's session, and I hope you really had fun. Great. Okay. So I'll be meeting you all guys in the next session. Till then, you know what you have to do, correct? So you just have to watch all my videos in sequence. Go back to my channel, Folks Hub. We have so many playlists. Please do watch them, okay? And get back, right? So get back to my next session. I mean to say, right? Okay. So if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel, Folks Hub. Okay. And yeah, thank you so much for watching my today's video. Okay. So please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, Folks Hub. Meet you in the next session. Bye bye, guys. Have a great day, all.